Well, that's a very interesting proposal, I said. I'm afraid this job is not for me. Tom Jackson was not happy with this decision. I decided that I would have to somehow live with his misfortune. That doesn't make me very happy, Adams, he said. Everyone I've ever offered a partnership to has accepted my offer. Well, I apologize for the disappointment, I said. Of course, making you happy is one of the main goals of my life. That's how it should be, he said. Your future career advancement depends on this. Several of our senior partners are very keen to see you progress in this firm. I'm glad to hear that, I said. In fact, I have very little ambition. I'm quite happy being an assistant. How does your wife feel about this? He asked. Does she know what opportunities you will have? What advantages the two of you will enjoy when you become a junior partner and then a full partner? I have no idea, I said. I never asked her. She has very little interest in my work. Does she have an interest in the penthouse in the Dover building? He asked. Does she have an interest in you earning big six-figure sums? I'm not sure. She never said she was unhappy with our current income or address. Why don't you talk to her this weekend? He said. I'm sure you'll see things differently if you mention the compensation package we offer. I agreed to talk to my wife, and he left, leaving me alone. After finishing the case I was working on, I took the afternoon off. Then I played golf with my high school football coach and had a nice dinner with my father-in-law. We discussed a case I was working on, and he hugged me as we parted. Marcy wouldn't be back until late that evening, so I headed to the gym for a couple of hours. Once I got home and showered, it was time to pick her up from the airport. Her flight was late, so I sat at the bar and drank beer. I kept an eye on the arrival time board and approached the gate when it announced the arrival of her flight. When she got off the plane, she was not alone. She is never alone. Some guy in uniform followed behind, trying to talk to her. She didn't pay the slightest attention to him. Long legs flashed in the high slit of her skirt, and a mane of golden hair fluttered around her angelic face. She's been my girlfriend since we were sophomores in high school. She could have had anyone, and I mean it. This face is matched with the body of a young man's fever dreams. Large, firm breasts, a tiny waist, and feminine hips. Her ass is what fuels that heat, and she just exudes an air of sexiness that makes men act like jerks around her. I've seen men bump into things while watching her. Combine that with a steel-trap mind, and Marcy is the complete package. Marcy knows she's sexy, she can't help it. But I'm lucky enough to be the only guy who finds her sexy. She saw me waiting, and her face lit up with a beautiful smile, white teeth sparkling against the dark tan of her skin. She walked faster, and the uniform almost trotted to keep up. She threw herself into my arms. I picked her up and spun her around. One of her heels hit his uniform thigh, and he screamed. I put her down, and she kissed me so hard my knees went weak. She looked around and noticed a shape. Oh, baby, it's Captain Sparks. He was our co-pilot. He has so many fascinating stories. He makes you feel like you're in the cockpit with him on all those flights he took when he was in the Air Force. Her voice was low, husky, and sounded very sexy. She knew what it was doing to me, the little slut. Captain, this is my husband, Zane. His face dropped at the mention of the word husband. Wow. Fighter pilot? I asked. Yes, I flew Hornets, he said. Air Force guy, huh? I asked. Yes, that's where I got my wings, he said. Well, I guess that just shows you what we civilians know, I said. He frowned. Probably, he laughed nervously. What do you know? I never knew the Air Force had aircraft carriers, I said. He paused for a moment. What do you have in mind? He asked. Well, these Hornets are based on aircraft carriers, I said. His face turned crimson. He turned pale in a second and decided that he had business elsewhere. Marcy let him walk 3 meters away before she burst out laughing. You are an evil person, baby, she said and kissed me again. Take me home. I spent 3 days in the desert and missed it more than ever. Tonight I will turn you into marshmallows. Did you miss me? She asked. Every second. Hey, Marcy, what do you think about the penthouse in the Dover building? I don't know, she said. It's kind of like an old building. Which way does it go? I thought about it. I don't know exactly. They haven't told me yet. I can also earn high six figures. She muttered. Is this what you want? No, not at all. I've just been offered a junior partnership at Abbott and Rhymes. They thought I should tell you about this. Well, congratulations, she said. Who do I have to thank? Everyone, I think, I said. Senior partners are very interested in my promotion. I actually think they're more interested in you than me. I have to let them know what you think about the apartment and the huge checks. On Monday, one of the senior partners called me into his office. Zach Hebron was a handsome, older gentleman with steely gray hair and a deep sea tan. Zane, come in, son. Sit on the chair. He was all smiles and handshakes. Jackson told me he proposed to you, he said. He shone like a beacon. Congratulations. You worked hard and deserve it. Well, I didn't quite accept the offer. Thanks for the congratulations, but they are a little premature. I just thought I should mention this. He said you were going to talk to your wife about it, he said. How did everything go? She seems to have given the matter some careful thought, I said. She asked which direction the apartment faces. He rubbed his hands happily. Oh, she'll have a view of the river, he said. I'm sure she'll like it. Did she say anything else? Well, she mentioned that she was wondering if she needed to thank anyone, I said. I have to find out. He patted his chest in a manner that I'm sure was meant to be thought-provoking. Damn, Zane, this is going better than I even hoped. Your wife is one of the sexiest women on the planet. I know we can work things out to everyone's satisfaction. I nodded. Well, ensuring everyone's happiness has always been my top priority, I said. A good man, he said. You know that your promotion and future work at Abbott and Rhymes depends on how satisfied we are. You've got your priorities straight, Zane. Tell me, is your wife as good as she looks? Better, I said. She always made me happy. I bet you do, he said with another grin. What does she like? That's it, I said. Of course she'll go to the Christmas party with you, right? This will mean a lot to the people responsible for voting to include you as a partner. I'm sure she'll be delighted, I said. Marcy loves parties. He sent me back to my office, and Tom Jackson invited me to lunch. He wanted me to sign some papers, including the apartment lease, but I told him I wanted Marcy to look at the papers in the apartment before I signed anything. She's very picky about apartments, I said. She won't like it if I just sign the lease and she doesn't look at it. He was understanding and gave me the key. I took the day off and played golf. Marcy called me on my cell phone while I was on the 10th field, and we agreed to go out to dinner. The valet took my keys and looked at me. I guess he's not used to cars like mine. I hoped he wouldn't scratch her. Marcy was inside and waiting for me at the bar. There were 2 guys on each side of her, and another pair hovering around like vultures. She jumped up when she saw me enter and led me to our table, leaving her former drinking companions dejected. The waiter brought the food, and we talked about daily matters. Marcy decided that she was almost ready to start her business. I hope you can finish it by Christmas, I told her. We were invited to a Christmas party at the office. All the big shots were really hoping that we would come. You know I love parties, baby, she said. I hope you agreed for our sake. I wanted to ask you first, I said. I didn't know if you would be ready or not. I think this will be perfect, she said. I mentioned that I had a key to the apartment so we could go look at it, and she had a hard time letting me finish the food. I wanted a piece of cheesecake and a cup of coffee. She impatiently tapped her nails on the table and looked at me so fiercely that I could barely enjoy dessert. It was very tasty, but because of her impatience, I scalded my tongue a little on the coffee. We pulled up to the Dover building, and the doorman let us inside. I told him that we had the key and that we should look at the apartment. We wanted to see if it was right for us. He was a little arrogant and said that all the apartments in this building were first class. Marcy noted that he had a scuff on one of his shoes. Better put on a little polish, she said. Antique shoes like these are probably hard to find. His face turned very red, and he hurried away, probably to solve a problem with his shoes. You're a mean girl, baby. I teased her once the doorman was safely out of sight. She laughed and hugged my arm. We entered the elevator, and the key fit into a slot on the penthouse floor. It seemed like it only took a second to get there, but perhaps more time passed. Marcy jumped me in the elevator, and kissing a hot woman always makes time fly by. She was already straightening her skirt when the elevator stopped. We walked down the corridor and entered the apartment. It was spacious, with large rooms and glass along the entire outer wall. As promised, it overlooked the river. Marcy looked at her, and I walked in the other direction. We met in the kitchen. She tapped her heel on the floor. "Laminate," she said. "Can you believe it?" There was disgust on her face. "I heard you could drop a bowling ball on it without damaging it," I said, trying to put it into perspective. She looked at me cheerfully. "Why would we throw a bowling ball on our kitchen floor?" Then the corners of her mouth turned up, and I knew what was about to happen. "Do you want to try the bed?" she asked. "Actually, I'm not that tired," I said. "I just drank a cup of coffee. My tongue still hurts." "The bed is creaking," she said as we rode down in the elevator. The swaggering porter was again at his post, but no pleasantries were exchanged. Marcy talked like a magpie all the way home. We had a nightcap and went to bed. The next morning she got up before me and made coffee. I took the cup, deciding not to rush through it, even though I had enjoyed the previous day, and asked her about the apartment. "Yes, go ahead. Sign the lease," she said. "I'll make sure it can be subleased." I went to work, and just before lunch, Jackson called me. "What do you and your wife think about the apartment?" he asked. "She seemed to like it," I said. "The view of the river was very beautiful. Perhaps when they clear the river of fish, it will be a nice place to walk." He seemed to have no answer to this. "Well, tell her to dress nice for the Christmas party," he said. "She's never been there before, and I'm sure all the senior partners are looking forward to meeting her. You know, Zane, many partners also have very attractive wives. Do you want to see the photos? One of the benefits of partnership, you know." He winked at me. "I've always loved looking at pictures of attractive women ever since I found my dad's stash of magazines in the garage as a child." "Of course I'll watch them," I said. "I'll email you the file," he said. "Don't look at them when someone is with you. We are very careful in this matter." "Well, that's good," I said. "Are there any photographs of Marcy there by any chance?" "No, not yet," he said. "Would you like photographs? We could make them for a Christmas party." "Yes, I think I'd like that," I told him. "You're doing the right thing for your career," he assured me. "In an economic downturn, now is not the best time to look for a new position." "Yes, I know," I said. "There are many people without work. I am very grateful that I have my position." "A good man," he said. "It's great when there are promising people like you nearby, whose heads are screwed on correctly." I returned to my desk, my thoughts filled with the image of screwing heads. I didn't have any clients that day, so I opened the images from the file Jackson sent me. They were quite frank. I had no idea that the men of the company had such attractive wives. Joel Thomas's wife was absolutely stunning. She was a gorgeous redhead. I've always been partial to Teachin's hair. Clarence Jenkins' wife was absolutely wonderful. Let's talk about brown sugar. I wondered if Marcy would mind if I spent some time getting to know these gorgeous babies better. I decided I should ask her. I marked these two photos and sent her the file. My note read, "Hey babe, I just got invited to check out the merchandise. I was wondering, while you're having fun at the Christmas party, would you mind if I rented one of these beauties? It would be impossible to do that. Marcy would tear me to shreds if I sneaked around without her." I waited for a response for 30 minutes, but received nothing. I hoped this was a good sign. Then a message came. "Why are you sending me pictures of women? Do you think I prefer women? I guess I'll have to prove that I'm not true when I get home." She rushed home just after 5, threw her briefcase on the sofa, and grabbed my hand. "I spent a lot of time outside today," she said. "I'm all sweaty. Take a shower with me." Showering led to other things. I sat down at my computer and looked through my folder of attractive women. Damn. That redhead was hot. I thought I should remember to remind Marcy that I wanted to play with her. She hadn't really said no the day before, so I was optimistic. My optimism turned out to be unfounded. "Just look at this slut," she said when she returned. We looked through the photographs. "How many Christmas parties do you think she's been to?" "Well, it looks like several," I said, looking at the poses. "They weren't all done at the same time. She's in different rooms." "Good eye," she said. "When do you think we will be able to see the documents for this new apartment and those big checks?" she asked. I realized that she was trying to distract me from the red-haired beauty. She has jealousy a mile wide. I saw through her little plan. "I wonder what you will look like after the Christmas party." I thought, "Well, probably just like her," she said. "Do you have any plans for tomorrow?" "Yes, you too," she said. "We go to church, and then Mom and Dad invite us to eat." It sounded good. Then I thought about it. "Will Tracy be there?" "Tracy is her twin sister. I hated her. Well, I loved her, but she was always up to something. This usually involved some kind of prank she would play on her unsuspecting brother-in-law." "Of course," Marcy said. "She wouldn't miss it for anything." I groaned and Marcy laughed. "Don't worry, baby. I won't let her eat you." The church was very nice. The pastor spoke about love, and I felt very loving when we were released. I walked the family to the car. Leo, Marcy's father, gave the driver directions, and off we went. It was a great restaurant, and I had a great time. Marcy and Tracy went to the bathroom, and I talked to their parents. Stacy, their mother, was a slightly more mature version of her daughters, and I loved her like my own mother. Marcy came back alone and sat next to me. I felt her hand on my thigh, and it became obvious that she was feeling playful. The hand slowly slid upward into dangerous territory, and I frowned. She burst out laughing, and I saw the gold filling. "Leo, make Tracy move," I said. "She's doing it again." Both parents scolded their unlucky daughter, and the real Marcy walked up to the table laughing. I pretended to be angry, and they pretended to try to calm me down. There was a flurry of activity at work on Monday. We were getting ready for the holiday season, and Jackson had a lot of paperwork that I needed to sign. I signed the lease, the partnership papers, and everything was ready. I was taken to my new office, a corner one overlooking the city, and I settled in. I mentioned my interest in the charming Mrs. Thomas, and Jackson assured me that he would introduce us to the party. "All you have to do is say the word, and she'll be yours for the whole evening," he promised. "She is very beautiful and wonderful in bed. We had Tuesday off, and the Christmas party was on Wednesday. We also had Thursday and Friday off. On Tuesday, Marcy and I had a great time. She said she was getting everything ready for a big party, and I couldn't wait to spend time with Mrs. Thomas. I mentioned it to Marcy a couple of times, and it made her eyes flash dangerously at me, but she didn't say anything. At least she didn't prohibit it, right? Besides, she would be busy managing, and I knew she would want me to stay out of trouble. It turned out that the party was taking place in the Dover building. Marcy mentioned it, but it slipped my mind. We decided to spend Tuesday night in the new apartment to, as it were, christen it. We took the party clothes and hung them in the closet. I lived in anticipation all day, and when Marcy finally came out, I was stunned. The red dress looked painted on, and she looked amazing. I tried to seduce her, but she complained that I bruised her. "Later, big boy," she said. It seemed problematic, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I hope it won't burn. That's what bridges usually do, or so I've heard. She looked at me. I thought I looked good in my tuxedo, and she seemed to approve, snuggling up to me and stroking my pants. "Control yourself," she said. I hoped that Mrs. Thomas would help me with this. When we entered the party, there was a jazz band playing. Food and drinks were plentiful, and several people were already dancing. Marcy always insists on being fashionably late for special occasions. I'm sure that when we entered, almost every man's eye in the place was fixed on her, and probably many women's eyes too. Jackson immediately came over and took us to the main table. All the senior partners and several juniors were sitting there. I introduced Marcy, and we sat down in the chairs. After the drinks, Zach Hebron took Marcy to the food tables, and Jackson brought Mrs. Thomas to meet her. In the flesh, she looked even better. Her name was Christina, and she told me I could call her Christy. She clung to me as if she was born for this. We went to the tables and grabbed snacks and drinks. When we returned to the table, Jackson and Hebron were sitting on either side of Marcy, showering her with lavish compliments. I saw her eyelid twitch faintly as her eyes met mine. To my trained eye, it looked suspiciously like a wink. When Christy snuggled up to me and there was delicious foie gras and crackers on my plate, I was as happy as a kid in a candy store. As the drinks flowed, the conversations became increasingly risque. I overheard some of the things Jackson and Hebron said to Marcy. "I can't wait to drag you into this bed and turn you into our little slut," he said. Marcy giggled. "You'll like this," Hebron muttered. "Sometimes clients come to us who really know how to have sex. You'll scream all night long. Don't worry, we will take very good care of you. As long as you are a good little girl and Zayn is a good little boy, we will take very good care of you." "Oh, I'll be very good." Marcy's words sounded a little slurred. "I think I'm going to show you some things you've never seen before." I couldn't help but wonder what these things were. Perhaps some of the photos I was about to get will clear things up. Jackson looked at me. "We'll take this hot little girl to your house," he said. "You won't recognize her when we're done with her." All the senior partners left, taking with them a clearly intoxicated Marcy. They entered the elevator, and Tracy and my father-in-law entered the hall. I patted Christy on the shoulder. "The show is starting," I said. She giggled. She had a very cute giggle. "Let's get started," she said. We all took the elevator up to the penthouse level. Several more people joined us. I thought they looked good in their uniforms. I wondered if they were airline pilots, but I had never seen armed pilots before. When I opened the door, there were 7 very surprised faces inside, and 1 angry one. "Zayn," Jackson said. "What are you doing here?" The men in uniform stepped forward, and while they were handcuffing, they began to mention the right to remain silent, about lawyers and other things. I looked at Marcy. She was only wearing these amazingly sexy red lace garters and red stockings. The painted dress was obviously not painted. She was pulling on her robe. "What's going on here?" Hebron demanded. "What are you doing? We are the owners of this room. Are you arresting us? What charge?" "Pimping," Tracy said. "Tax fraud, sexual assault, illegal video recording, sexual harassment, illegal wiretapping, and removal of mattress tags. Perhaps we'll come up with something else later." I looked at Jackson. "Damn, Jackson," I said. "I knew that a collection of mattress tags would get you into trouble someday." It seemed to me that Hebron was about to suffocate. His eyes flickered from Marcy to Tracy. "Who the hell are you?" he finally said. "I'm Deputy U.S. Attorney Tracy Olson," she said. She pointed to her father. "This is Federal Prosecutor Leonard Olson." She pointed at Marcy and then at me. "This is Assistant U.S. Attorney Marcy Adams, and this is Special Investigator Zayn Adams, her husband. With all the evidence we've collected, with all the wires Zayn is wearing, you don't stand a chance. We've been working on your capture for the last 18 months, and you're under arrest, you bastard." They were all taken out, leaving me, Marcy, Tracy, and Christy in the apartment. "You're still going to testify against them, right, Christy?" asked Marcy. "Oh, yes." Christy seemed to be wildly delighted at the prospect. I cleared my throat. Baby, does this mean Christy won't be joining us for tonight's festivities?" "Even Tracy can stay if she wants." Both women seemed to be in complete agreement with my proposal. I saw the sparkle in their eyes. "I won't let any of these sluts near my husband," Marcy said decisively. "Who are you calling a slut?" Tracy protested. "Besides, this is my apartment. You just subleased it to me yesterday. I'm the one kicking you out. Go home and sleep in your own bed in that damn Millennium Tower you're so proud of. Christy, Zayn, you two can stay if you want." "Forget about them," she said. "My man will enjoy himself today." All this worry got me all fired up. "Will you turn me into a slut today?" She opened her robe just as the elevator door closed. "Do you need a personal slut?" I looked Marcy in the eyes. "Maybe later, baby, but tonight I'm sick of this business. I'm sick of slutty girls and guys who think that because they're rich and powerful, they can have whatever they want. Today, I just want to take my beautiful, brilliant wife home and show her how much I love her. I feel dirty for being around these guys for 18 months. Do you understand, baby? Can we just, tonight, share our love? She understood, and we did it. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.